Hi BookTube, and welcome to a new video. This is a tag video. Now I posted a community post via my BookTube channel that I am definitely cutting back on tag videos because I think there's a surfeit of them in recent months. I did explain that I felt that that was because I had less review content because of my year of maximalist mammoth reads. And even though that's still the case, I think sort of trying to compensate with tag videos one after the other was not the solution. But so I've done one for a while, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I can't remember. So this is the D tag, or the D is for tag, originated by Jim's books, reading and stuff. Now I wasn't tagged. I think Jim is trying to keep it so that he's tagging booktubers whose name contains the letter of the day, because he's going through the alphabet. Now what Jim couldn't possibly know is my real name, my nom de plume. Actually the Christian name part of that does begin with a D, but as I say, there's no way that Jim could know that. Okay, so D is for Dahl. What is your favourite book by Roald Dahl? None. He was a raging anti-Semite, and I don't know whether I intuited that as a child. I suspect not, but I wasn't really reading children's books anyway. So yeah, I've never read Roald Dahl. 2. D is for Doctor Who. What is your favourite book about time travel? This is a really interesting question for me because I'm obsessed with time travel logic. The fact that most plots involving time travel involve people coming back from the future to the past to try and alter that past in order to alter the course of the future. But the flaw in the logic, or the paradox in the logic of that, is if you come back from the future because you don't like something in the state of that future and aim to alter it by changing an act in the past so that it goes along a different alternative path in history, then there will be no future in which you needed to travel back into the past to alter that future, because you're happy with the future. So this is the fundamental paradox at the heart of time travel, and I've read quite a lot and never really seen that sort of successfully countered. My favourite is Robert Silverberg's Up the Line, where people from the future do sort of historical tours in real life historical periods. This one is ancient Greece, and the tour guide sort of falls in love with one of the sort of ancient Greek women there, which obviously causes problems with timelines. But it's really interesting because he goes into sort of certain things about the ancient Greeks, such as what their musical instruments sounded like, which would be very alien to our ears today, or the ears of those in his future. So it's a really interesting book. Now I have to declare an interest in time travel novels because I've written one. And I've already talked about the paradox at the heart of time travel narratives. And for me, the best sort of representation of this is not a book. It's the Terminator films, but particularly the first one, the original one, which I love. I mean, I think it's a fantastic movie, but it doesn't ever really overcome its the logical paradox, as I say. And my book, Time After Time, sort of has a similar premise as Terminator, in that it's a future world run by women, which has completely emasculated men, and these very unhappy men send someone back to the past to assassinate a feminist. The mother of a feminist whose ideas sort of gradually circulate and lead to the future society. But the problem is, A, he's been emasculated, so that the notion of assassination doesn't come natural to him, and B, he has no experience of weapons or weaponry. And unfortunately for him, the mother of the woman of the future lives on a really rough council estate in Britain, so he's really struggling to cope and survive. So I'm all over time travel books. 3. D is for dark. What is the darkest book you've read? Well, I've got a few that could qualify, but the one I've plucked is Dark Spring by Ulrike Zern, a German author, post-war author who committed suicide. And this book contains incest, underage sex, dog sex and teenage suicide, which is pretty dark. But I have to say, it's really well done. You know, any one of those elements pretty much could put you off a book. So to put them all together in a book and to pull it off, as I believe this book does, is quite an achievement. 4. D is for Dickens. How many Dickens novels have you read? And Jim has helpfully told us there were 15, including the Mystery of Edwin Drood. None. I've never read Dickens. I did take my son to the Dickens Museum near King's Cross Station, though, because I think they'd read The Railwayman as a short story at school, and I can't remember how it emerged from that he and I went to the museum, but we did. 5. D is for dictionary. In these, the internet years, do you still use physical paper dictionaries? Well, this is a really interesting question because, on the whole, no, I resort to online dictionaries and thesaurus. In fact, today I learned a fantastic word. I was reading it in a book, a non-fiction book, and it's bdelloid, D-B-E-L-L-O-I-D. So the first thing to say, it's interesting that the first two letters are consonants that don't normally go together, D and B. It sounds like bell end, and in fact you can make an insult of it because it means leech-like. I can't remember exactly the derivation, but something like bdelloid something is the Latin name for the family that includes leeches. But I looked up that word online, and now I normally use dictionary.com, and it wasn't in there, and I find with dictionary.com there's a lot of words that are in there, so I then go to freedictionary.com, and it was there where I found it. I suspect it wouldn't, I haven't looked it up, but I suspect it's not in my paper dictionary, which is a reasonably big Oxford dictionary. Now I say, you know, on the whole I always go to online first, but there are circumstances. And I remember last year when it was so hot and I was reading outside in the garden, I don't get sort of very good connectivity out in the garden because we keep the doors shut to keep out insects and cats and things. So there was one particular author I was reading who's called Alexander Thoreau, who has loads of obscure words and also coins neologisms, which obviously throw you because you go to look at them in the dictionary and they're not there. And, you know, I didn't want to keep sort of trooping upstairs to where my computer was plugged in to go and look up a word online. So I just took my big Oxford dictionary out with me. So I do occasionally, in the summer, still resort to paper dictionaries. 6. D is for Dagger and Detective. What was the last detective novel you read? This wouldn't be classified as a detective thriller genre, but it undoubtedly is. And it's David Peace's Tokyo Redux, which has just come out. It was the third in his Tokyo trilogy, which are all looking at sort of infamous crimes in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War in Tokyo, which was then still under American occupation, and the interesting thing of Japanese and or American sort of detectives investigating them. And, you know, as I say, to me it's definitely a detective novel. But if you're not going to allow that, I would say any of Leonardo Sciascia's books set in Italy. He doesn't have one particular detective throughout, but he, you know, they're all sort of detective genre. But the interesting thing about him is they extend to analysis of sort of wider Italian society and politics and corruption and states within states, such as the Masons, such as the Red Brigade, such as the fascist terrorist groups, such as the Catholic Church, of course. And they're brilliant. They're absolutely eye-opening. And interestingly, in some of his books, his detectives don't make it through the story. They get bumped off. 7. D is for Dostoevsky. What is your favourite Dostoevsky novel? Well, by default, it's Crime and Punishment, because that's the only one I've read. I do have a copy of The Underground Man to read, which I haven't read yet. 8. D is for diversity. Which book from your reading ticked the most diversity boxes? Well, I think it's probably this, Detransition Baby, which I haven't finished. We're doing a buddy read, 4 of us in all. So we're almost at the end of it. That definitely ticks several diversity boxes, although, you know, it's pretty demeaning to any book to be called, say that it's ticking boxes, diversity or otherwise. Something that would run it close would be Shola van Rijhold's book Loot, which I read at the start of this year. That also covers a lot of intersectionality. So either of those. 9 and final. D is for drawing. Who is your favourite visual artist? I'm not in my study, which is a pity because I have 2 framed prints by my favourite artists, but you've seen them before. That's Mark Rothko by a country mile. So there you have it. Thanks very much to Jim. As I say, he's tagged a lot of people who contain a D in their name or the name of their channel. So I open this up to anyone, whether you have a D in your name or not, or whether, like me, you have a secret D in your secret name. Okay, till next time. Thanks very much.